Brought to you by Ballybet, an official sports betting partner of your Cleveland Browns. Nathan Zgurn, as you can see, not Bo Bishop, but Browns quarterback coach Bill Musgrave. Fox. Turn that on. All right, there we go. Technicalities aside, here with Browns quarterback coach Bill Musgrave. Coach, how are you doing?
Doing well. We've had a good week, and we got to keep on keeping on.
How fun is it to finally get to have defenders out there?
Yes, this week has been big, just as you said. Being able to go against defenders, live defenders, is good for all four of our QBs.
All right, for people who may not know, you played the position in the National Football League with the 49ers, amongst others, but I was certainly, for me as a young man growing up in the Bay Area, you were there for my some of my formative years. Stories of getting into the Super Bowl, all of these things and whatnot. What's the biggest difference now between what the quarterback was asked to do when you played and what the quarterback is asked to do today?
Oh, I can't imagine. Number one, we're in the shotgun a lot. When I was with the 49ers in the early 90s, we were under center. Even if it was 3rd and 25, we were going to be under center. So that's a big difference. And then defenses have gotten more and more complex, as we can imagine. Joe Gibbs, the coach of the Redskins for all those years, used to say the game at the professional level probably changed 10 to 15% every year, and it really does. It really does, with people evolving, coaches, players, different schemes, different approaches. So it's been a lot.
And you've gotten to see a lot of that. Has that been fun to see that evolution? Yes. And if you think of you were the quarterback coach of you and Steve Young, what your role would have been and what you would have been asking them to prepare for versus now being the quarterback coach that you are and everything that you're asking Shedeur and Dylan Gabriel and Joe Flacco and Kenny Pickett to prepare for. Yeah. That's probably got to blow your mind in some sense, but you've kind of been there all along, so it's been slow change that has added up to huge change.
But you're right, distinctly different, and it's great that I still have those notes from Gary Kubiak and Mike Shanahan. I always refer back. Yeah. I refer back to them, and they're nostalgic a little bit, but they're also certain principles that have withstood the test of time. You know, with our footwork and our rhythm, our eyes, being able to anticipate defenders rather than being more reactive. So a lot of those quarterback concepts have, they apply across the decades.
Well, that's why you still like, I'm sure, that we call them keepers, right? The play-action boot game is still something that looks the same as it did 30 years ago.
Yeah, and I think it's going to match up even better for us this year. I know Tommy Reese and Kevin are working long and hard about marrying the run and the pass. Yep. And back when things were really rolling years ago, whether Kevin was at Minnesota, when Kevin got here initially, that was really an integral part of the offenses. And it'll be great to go back to the future and return to those concepts.
Those roots, and you got some good running backs in the draft to help you guys do that as well, a great offensive line. Why is it that when you have that type of a system really humming, that those, and it can come out of 13 personnel, come out of 12 personnel, it doesn't matter, but those play actions are really where you're able to manufacture the vertical game, the shot plays? Why? What is it about? It feels like it's easier than if you're just in shotgun and to run verticals. Of course, you can do it, but when you have that play action game really working, that's where those shots can come.
Yeah, Kevin says this all the time, and Tommy does as well. It makes us more difficult to defend. It makes the defense have to play the run first and then diagnose mid-down what our intent was, rather than, as you said, shotgun, drop back. They get to pin their ears back and get in pass rush mode from the get-go.
Yep.
And that's a tougher way to make a living.
You mentioned kind of the change to more shotgun. You have kids coming in, and Dylan and Shedeur, that not lived in shotgun, but you could basically say they lived in shotgun. You know, there's maybe a few clips we can find of them getting under center, but not much. And then to transition from that to what we're going to ask them to do, you know, a lot of these guys have not regularly turned their back from the defense, and picking that kind of stuff up. How much harder is that transition than maybe people realize, if it is?
No, you said it, and you're using our language to a T. That's what we talk about. It's tough to turn your back on the defense as you depart from center. You make a great play fake, and then you want to find out what you missed when you get to the top of your drop. That's high degree of difficulty, graduate level stuff for quarterbacks. And so you need turns at those. You need reps, turns. You need time on task because – in high school and college, there's not as many offenses still doing that. At this level, with the defenders what they are, where each team has a Myles Garrett type player,
sure.
we can't just let those guys tee off on us. We've got to make them play the run.
Hesitate.
Yeah, make them play the game honestly and not cheat the drill.
Yeah.
And so being under center leads to that intent, and it also gives us a fighting chance to get in front of those guys for a moment so we can launch those balls down the field.
Having you who did that, and then I can go back a couple of years ago. When Joe Flacco came in, it was like he was a natural with that hard play action, back to the defense, figuring out what the pitcher, what he missed, and then getting it vertically. How valuable is it for these young guys to, because Kenny's a young guy, to have him in that room with you, somebody who's done it?
It's terrific. Thus far, Joe,
he's the best.
Joe's been great because he leads by example. Also, when Joe speaks, people listen because he's just got an incredible credibility and history. You just look at his body of work. So the fact that Joe's 6'6" sure helps him be good at that. He's a 6'6" flamethrower back there. So he can see things that the rest of us mere mortals, and common field mice cannot see. So it is good to watch Joe and the way that he operates, and we all can glean, both players and coaches, things that he's picked up over all these years.
Is it wild that at his age he still throws it with the velocity and just it's still effortless looking?
It is. He was put on this earth, to throw footballs, throw baseballs. When he was in high school, I was at Virginia, and we were trying to recruit both he and Matt Ryan to get to come down to Virginia. So I would go up to Philadelphia and South Georgia and watch Joe throw a couple baseball games, sit next to his dad that spring, and watching him throw 92, 93 as a high school junior.
That's heat.
Yeah, and just natural.
Gas, as they would say.
Not as if he was straining to do that.
Right. And he did not go to Virginia.
How about that? He went to Pitt. Yeah, went to Pitt, of course, and then ended up at Delaware and just has had an incredible journey.
And Matt Ryan ended up at BC.
Yep, incredible journey.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good recruiting class.
Oh, man, we had them targeted. We just couldn't get
them
to become Cavaliers.
Well, the best part is now he is here at Cleveland Brown. 4 quarterbacks, some challenges in that, and I think this is going to be something that maybe you're not familiar with. I know I'm not familiar with it, where this is going to be the reps are going to be scrutinized. How many reps? When are the reps? Everybody's going to rep crazy right now. You got to get 4 guys in there. You're doing something that I think is very smart, running at times, simultaneous A and B. But how do you guys kind of go about that plan? And then how is it, slated to evolve based on performance?
Yeah, I think we'll see how it shakes out, but we're really trying to maximize our time out on the field. There's rules in place, so we can't be out there 18 hours a day, even though we'd like to.
You'd like to be, sure.
But the guys are doing a super job. They're making the most of every opportunity they get, and they're also making the most of when they're not in the play, watching and learning from someone else's triumphs or when someone else perhaps stubs their toe.
All right, let's talk about these quarterbacks for a little, and then we'll kind of talk about the process that goes into getting them, going through a day in the life of an NFL quarterback now. But let's start with Kenny Pickett, because 15-10 as a starter, 7 game-winning drives. Guy who's been very, very productive in the National Football League. And, here he is on his 3rd team. Probably was a better fit for Arthur Smith in Pittsburgh, but never got the chance to play with him. And now he comes to a system that feels like is pretty tailor-made to what he does well and the way that he wins as a quarterback.
Yeah, well, I've enjoyed being around Kenny this spring. We've had a number of weeks in Phase 1 and Phase 2, and now we're in the OTAs in Phase 3. He's really bright, really sharp. He can visualize. He can adapt. He's got a quick processor in that brain of his, so he's going to be fun to work with.
Has he taken a liking to this as well, because in terms of what it's asking of him and the things? He's a better athlete than I think a lot of people realize as well back there, but it feels like this is going to suit him well. Has he enjoyed kind of this offense and what's going to bring out for him?
Well, I think so. He sure gives that impression. He's very positive each and every day. He's not up and down. He's not a moody guy. He's the same guy every day. Comes in, professional grade, and I know his teammates have really respected that, and they've gravitated toward him.
We've talked a lot about Joe. Let's talk about the young guys, because that's probably fun to get to see and mold these guys. You got 2 of them in there. Start with Dylan Gabriel. More starts than anybody in college football history, more passing touchdowns than anybody in college football history. You're already smiling.
Well, yeah, you just talk about a body of work.
Yeah, he's got it.
Yeah, he's seen a lot and made a lot of great plays, made mistakes that he's learned from. So that's the key, is getting out there and being able to do it. And both our young guys have had a lot of time on task at the college level.
Yeah, and then there's Shador, who has made some beautiful throws. Dylan has as well. So much kind of it's just interesting the path that led to him being a Cleveland Brown. I think we're certainly better off for it. What's he been like since he's been here? And certainly, yesterday effective in the red zone. What's he shown you, in that room?
They've done a nice job. Both guys, I think, are becoming more comfortable every day, in our language, in the way that we huddle.
They haven't called plays.
Not a lot of huddles in college and high school, which is good. It's not the college's responsibility to get these guys ready for the NFL. They're responsible for lighting up the scoreboard and winning games.
Yeah.
So there's no skin off anybody's nose. We're just trying to get them ready to call some plays, get ready with the language, present in an orderly manner, of course, and do the right thing once they get to the line of scrimmage. And they're making strides to do that every day.
I don't know the last time there was really kind of a pure quarterback competition in the National Football League. This is exciting. Are you kind of excited to be a part of it and see how this all ultimately shakes out?
Yeah, I think the entire team is, the entire building. We're excited because we've got good young men on the team, and we're looking back to getting on the right side of the ledger this year. So we're excited. We've got a bunch of team-oriented people, not only at the quarterback position but across the board. So it's a really terrific process with which to be a part.
All right, you got to run. I'm told that you've got a lot to do. We need to get you back in there because I have so much more to ask you. But last one. Where's the baseball glove? Are we still going to keep using that?
Well, when I need to catch for the QBs, I definitely need the glove just as a blocker.
Yeah.
Those guys want to see somebody catch it and not, get beat up by the ball. When
No, we don't want you getting beat up.
Yes, and I'm not what I once was. No spring chicken. So I need to catch those balls. So any help I can get,
yeah, you'll take it.
I'll employ.
You'll take it, Coach. Thank you so much for the time. We really enjoyed having you on the program. We'll do it again soon.
Thank you.
All right. Browns quarterback coach Bill Musgrave there. We'll be back getting this show kicked off and rolling here. It's Cleveland Browns Daily brought to you by Bally Bet here on 850 ESPN Cleveland. All right, welcome back into Cleveland Browns Daily, brought to you by Bally Bet, an official sports betting partner of your Cleveland Browns. Nathan Segura, very happy to be joined by the three-time Super Bowl champ, Gerard Cherry, sideline reporter for your Cleveland Browns. What's up, Gerard?
Hey, dog, how's it going, my man?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I am doing okay considering that we live in, I guess, Seattle because it just doesn't stop raining. It won't stop and it won't quit. But outside of that, man, I'm enjoying some elements of the summer. I had a chance to go to the Bahamas.
Nice.
Enjoyed that.
Where in the
Got
Bahamas?
sunburn in the process. Coco Cay and Nassau.
Oh, nice. On a cruise?
Yes.
Yeah, Coco Cay. Is that Royal Caribbean?
That is Royal Caribbean, my man.
Okay. All right. Nice. Very good. Yeah, you got to get out of here to get the weather. Although I think we're about to maybe Saturday's going to be chilly, but I think getting into next week. Tonight should be okay. I think I'm actually going to play my golf league.
Dog? How's it going to be chilly in June?
I don't know. I have, you could hear me. I sniffle every now and then. I apologize for those that are.
Well, that's the pollen, dog. I feel you. I got the same.
I got allergies.
Problem.
I've had a cold. It's June. It's like, what are we doing here? Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous. One thing we are doing though is we got football going on, Gerard. And we have got as well, Bill Musgrave was just in studio. He's a guy I'm sure that you have some familiarity with. Obviously, spent some time with the 49ers, and it was great getting to talk to him. And I felt like we were just getting going, but unfortunately, meetings get in the way of fun. But what did you take anything away from what he said there in that quick interview?
Yeah, I take a couple things away from it. One is that you hear the strengths of the quarterbacks, in particular when he talked about Kenny and what he had to say about Joe and what they represent. And I really love the recruiting story because I always wondered, how did Joe end up in Delaware? And granted, Delaware is a great, if I'm not mistaken, it was a Division I AA program, if you will. And I always wonder how he got there, but I didn't realize he went to Pitt first and then eventually got to Delaware. So that was interesting to hear that. And then, as far as Kenny's concerned, just what he's saying from being a smart, astute player, and that's one of the key things, man. I tell people this all the time. You have to have the ability as a quarterback to see things before they happen. You're out there playing chess with a defensive coordinator who's trying to do what? Confuse you and put you in a situation where you don't know what's coming at you. And if you have the ability to figure out before snap and post snap what's going on, and on top of that, have a coordinator and a head coach who can put you in this position to succeed, to where it's like just go with what the play dictates, that's only going to help your cause. So again, man, I'm encouraged about our quarterback room more so than I was on last year's quarterback room. So he pretty much confirmed a lot of things that I was thinking and feeling through the interview that you had with him.
Yeah, and it's exciting. That's one of the things I think people are starting to kind of come around to, something we've talked about on this show certainly for a while, but that Kenny Pickett is, I think, likely to be your week one starter. I think that he's the favorite in the clubhouse is the way that I would say it. And I think that, he does do things well that this offense wants its quarterback to be able to do. And you heard him talk about that. And the other part that he talked about and stressed is it is not just an easy transition to be a young quarterback coming from college. And he said, I thought, great, college they're not supposed to prepare them for the NFL. They're preparing them to be
right,
the light up scoreboards. And you got the Big Ten Offensive Player of the Year in Dylan Gabriel, the Big 12 Offensive Player of the Year in Shedeur Sanders. These guys haven't been under center. These guys have not done a lot of these concepts. They've not even called plays in a huddle, something that you don't even think about in terms of the execution of the play. But here's the thing. If you can't get that play out quickly, there could be confusion. You can't get that play out quickly. That doesn't allow you to get to the line of scrimmage to try to get some of that cat and mouse game pre-snap where you're trying to decipher what's going on with the defense and get that information. So it's a very rudimentary thing and maybe fundamental thing, but there is some catch-up to do with these guys. But so far what we've seen is, I think these young players have a good accounting of themselves.
Well, what you talk about is so true because football is filled with nuance. It is. And these nuances, they matter. Be they large or small, they certainly matter. And the cadence, your demeanor in a huddle, when a guy looks in your eyes, especially at the quarterback position, and you sense fear or doubt, guess what? That doesn't register well with the rest of the squad. So when you're at the line of scrimmage and say I'm on the defense and I hear quivering in your voice, how do you think I feel now? Yep. I'm like, this guy's scared. I'm really going to give him something to be scared about. So the idea of being in college and having cards held up and being told what to do based upon that, as opposed to going in that huddle, commanding the huddle, and then going to the line of scrimmage and projecting your voice in a manner of fashion in which the defender hears it and says, okay, that sounds like a leader. I know to some, Nathan, that sounds ridiculous, but when you get to it, those little things like that matter. I've had guys be made fun of on the football field because they didn't project themselves enough as a leader and with confidence based on how they did a cadence. And it does matter. It does sound silly, but it matters.
Of course it matters. It all matters in projecting the confidence that you need to be able to go out there and execute at a high level. I mean, you take it from something as simple as golf. A lot of people who listen to this play golf. If you aren't confident you're going to hit a good shot, you're probably not going to hit a good shot. And if you're certainly thinking about hitting a bad shot, you're probably going to hit a bad shot.
Right.
That confidence matters. The ability to project that confidence at this critical position matters. And, yeah, it's a lot of information, but it's also, I'm sure to your point in the huddle as well, not necessarily even how you present it, but if you're jumbling through the play call, do the people in the huddle trust that you're going to be able to actually read the defense? No. That's a lot harder than just right. saying the play call. So,
blue 47 jet right. What was it again? Yeah, you don't want to hear that.
No, you do not want to hear that. You want to have somebody that is certainly ready to go. We've had a lot of quarterback tracking in the past here in Berea. We've certainly had that, in training camps for years and years. This might be the first time we've ever gotten into OTA quarterback tracking, Gerard, but it's a real competition. What you're seeing is that Pickett and Gabriel, they got the most reps. I'm looking at that as much as I'm looking at the production. I think if production, eventually is going to maybe change the reps, and I think it gives you a good baseline to start with. But Dylan Gabriel and Kenny Pickett both attempted 16 passes yesterday, according to various quarterback trackers. Flacco, 14. Shedeur Sanders, 9. Now, Sanders was very efficient in the red zone, 3 touchdowns yesterday, and did a good job with his reps. But that's kind of what I'm looking at now is how do they see it now? And that allows you not just from, this is set in stone. This is early in the OTAs, but what it does is it gives you the base so that when there are changes to how reps are being distributed, if there are changes, that you are very aware of how those reps are changing.
Exactly. And some are probably hearing what you're saying, Nathan, and saying, it's not that big of a differential. It is. Trust me. It is the 1 extra rep, the 2 extra reps. It's all about that because in a way I liken it to percentage on your interest rate. If you have a higher rate, you're going to pay more. And if you get a couple more reps, guess what? That's going to help with your preparation because that's the most precious thing right now this time of the year is the amount of reps that you're getting to prepare for the upcoming season. And the guy who's getting the most reps to prepare, they're pretty much telling you, we want to see this person succeed more so than others. And I know you're saying, how's that even sound? That sounds very convoluted. Well, if there wasn't the case, then everyone would get equal reps across the board.
Yep.
It's that simple. And I know from my experience of playing that the guy who got more reps was a guy who they wanted to prepare more. And it's really that simple. Now, that can all be subject to change. We can have a flip-flop today. We won't witness it because the media is not available, but that might be the case as well. But ultimately, at some point, you have to establish that this one guy is going to be the main guy until he gives you reasons to doubt him being the main guy. Because you do not, I repeat, you do not want to have the situation unfolding late August of who the heck is going to be our quarterback.
Yeah, and as I said, this is the baseline. This is where they see it now, and it makes sense, right? Pickett is, a lot of us think, is the favorite to be the starter. Flacco is the veteran who might not need quite as many reps. Dylan Gabriel is your third-round pick. That was the first quarterback taken by the Browns in this draft. And then Shedeur Sanders, it was the second quarterback taken by the Browns in this draft. So it makes sense that Pickett's getting a little bit more work than Flacco, and Gabriel's getting a little bit more work than Shedeur.
Right. It totally makes sense. And I've taken some heat from my colleagues in the afternoon about my projection of Kenny Pickett. And
why?
It's really,
based on what?
Simple. Based upon the idea, well, they're still stuck in the fact that he played for the Pittsburgh Steelers and he had to leave there. But the point I try to make it hit home to them.
15-10.
Thank you. But here's the point I make to them. He was able to do that in a situation in which the offensive line was horrible. He was able to do that in a situation where you had a malcontent receiver, and he was able to do that in a situation where the coordination was nowhere near to the level of sophistication and toolage that he'll get under Kevin Stefanski. So you have a first-round talent who was able to win football games. Now, the thing that people throw at you is, well, he needs to score touchdowns. Well, again, that goes in the coordination of the offense. We all know the Pittsburgh Steelers 2 years ago offensively were horrible from a coordination standpoint. Hence why they got rid of their coordinator in Canada. With that being said, you got a guy who hasn't been completely ruined from a confidence standpoint by being in that situation, was a first-round talent. You give him a shot. You give him a try. And you see if your toolage and your way of doing things can help the situation. Because I would like to think if Kevin Stefanski was able to get P.J. Washington to play at a high level.
P.J. Walker.
Could he not do that with Kenny Pickett?
Yes, and Kenny Pickett, you talked about the one part. Matt Canada was viewed as the worst offensive coordinator in the league. They bring in Russell Wilson. The irony is that Kenny Pickett probably was a better fit for the Arthur Smith offense than either Russell Wilson or Justin Fields. He never plays in it, goes to Philadelphia. They obviously had very high praise for him and what he did there. And now he has an opportunity in an offense that is really more suited to his skill set. And I think that is what is for Kenny Pickett. This is a real opportunity. And a lot of people, I have a buddy who left the WWE and ended up becoming a very big success on the Indies, still is. Matt Cardona was Zack Ryder in the WWE. And he always says, I'm not trying to prove people who didn't believe in me wrong. I'm trying to prove myself right. Mm-hmm. And this is Kenny Pickett's opportunity to prove himself right, that he is a starting quarterback, former first-rounder. Folks, the guy's got the best winning percentage of any quarterback who's been with the Browns since I've been with this organization. This will be my 13th season. Kenny Pickett is going to, and by the way, when you start a season the way that the Browns are starting this season with that schedule, if he performs at a good level and we're 3-3 through 6, you may have found something.
I agree. I wholeheartedly agree. Because, again, that is murderer's row. Bengals, Ravens, Packers, Lions, Vikings, hell, Steelers going to week 6. That is no joke with schedule. But you know what, Nathan?
And it's in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I love the schedule because of this. I'm of the opinion. You figure out who you are after the first 6 weeks of the season, and this is going to obviously force this football team to be prepared and ready to go early on. There is no resting on your laurels. There is no waiting to see the season get going and rev things up. You have to hit the ground running, and you are also going to be hardened by this season. It's going to early on either make or break you, and that's a good thing in my opinion, especially when you're coming off a 3-14 record, because there's no time to play around.
No, there isn't. But just to kind of put some perspective to this, and the Browns have not won in Pittsburgh in far too long. Your first 6 games are against the Bengals, who went 9-8, so that's 1 game over 500. The Ravens, who went 12-5, so that's now you're at 8 games over 500. The Green Bay Packers, who went 11-6, so that's 13. The Detroit Lions, who are 15-2, that's 26. The Vikings were 14-3, that's 37, and then the Steelers were 10-7. Your first 6 opponents in this season were 40 games over 500 last year. 40 games over 500. So that my point in saying that is, yes, it is tough. It is a murderer's row, as you said, but let's say Kenny Pickett does get the nod here, because I think that'd be a very difficult situation to put a rookie quarterback into. Kenny Pickett gets the nod, and Kenny Pickett plays well, and the Browns are winning games. In these 6, that would speak volumes to me. That would speak volumes.
And it should. Well, it should, because one is a nice start. And the 17 games makes it weird to say this, because generally speaking, when it was 16 games, you broke it up into quarters, the season, 4 games, and did your grading. At this point, though, with the 17, I guess you go 5 games maybe. I'm not quite sure yet how I want to determine that. But at the end of the day, if you're facing a team out the gate that was on the cusp of making the playoffs, because the Bengals made a late run, from what I remember from last year, and then the rest of the teams you just named all made it to the playoffs.
Yep.
That tells you everything you need to know right there. So if you find yourself at the quarterback position actually competing and winning games, and we're not walking away from experience saying we got outdueled at the quarterback position, you may have found your guy. And guess what? That will be a great, great, great thing to occur, because that frees up so many other things once the season is over with, a while you can do to build your team back up to make up for the loss of draft picks from the past.
Yeah, and you have an opportunity, right? If you could find that quarterback this year, it really kind of sets things up. Gerard, from what you were able to see, whether it be video yesterday, were you out there yesterday?
No, I was not.
Okay, I was down in Columbus. From the videos and things that you were able to see, did anything stand out to you about these young quarterbacks that were out there, or even the venerable Joe Flacco?
Well, the main thing that I heard from interviews and a little bit that I did see, and this is what you want to hear, especially from your receivers, is that balls were on target. Guys were catching footballs and guys were making progress far as being on the same page and building that confidence with and rapport with their wide receivers. You heard Jerry Jeudy talk about that, and that's of the utmost importance. And you also heard the completion percentages. That's what you want to hear. You don't want to have 3-11 and 6-14 type of numbers, right? So we didn't hear those things, and you're hearing guys compete. And across the board, I heard no one say from yesterday's practice that anyone did bad.
Yep.
Now, what I did not hear is that no one separated themselves from the pack. I didn't hear that either.
Yeah, I think it's obviously it's hard to do in such a quick setting there, but yeah, that is certainly the goal. Is for these quarterbacks to try to separate themselves and see if they can force a change. In the case of Shedeur Sanders, right, you're trying to force a change in reps. You're trying to get more opportunities, and that's really what, if you're him, to me, that's what you're after. That's what it's all about. So if he can do that, that's going to be a pretty big deal for Shedeur Sanders to be able to do it, and that will be where we see some of this move. It's clear that obviously right now Pickett and Gabriel are the two young guys that are getting the most looks. Will that change? How that changes, that'll be interesting to see. And then with Joe Flacco, you know what you've got, right? The good and the bad. I think you know very well what you've got with Joe Flacco, and what you're hoping to do with Joe Flacco is have him, continue. If you need him, be there and be ready to step in. But, ideally, I think, and I don't think it's wrong to say that, ideally you want one of these young guys to be, you want to get a look at maybe even all these young guys, but you want to get a look at these young guys to see if they can be the today and tomorrow, because as we know, it just is what it is. That's where, Joe Flacco in his 40s is not a future problem solver for this organization.
Right. And that's the key component right there. Today and tomorrow. And obviously none of us are promised tomorrow, but we understand why we project and look forward to tomorrow, because it's just a prudent, wise thing to do from a football preparation standpoint and salary allocations and ramifications of the salary cap. But with that being said, Nate Dogg, the thing that Joe is in a really good position is the following, that he doesn't require as much because of the experience.
Yep.
And if he does separate himself, he does have going for him that there is a symmetry and a chemistry with him and Kevin Stefanski that we witnessed 2 seasons ago, in which we walked away all from the experience impressed and wanting more. At least I did.
Yeah, it was a ton of fun. With Joe Flacco. Flacco Fever was the NFL's comeback player of the year on that magical run with the Cleveland Browns. So that's what we got to see, how that all shakes out, what he is able to do and with these reps. And really, can these young guys emerge? I think ideally, you want these young guys in there. If we have to see Joe Flacco, to me, that says that things went very awry with some of these young players, because we need somebody for today, but we need somebody for today and tomorrow. And to your point, having those 2 first-round picks, if you can use those on skill position players or an offensive tackle or a safety, you can turn this thing around pretty quickly, because you haven't had that influx of talent. You would have had, 2 of the top 33 last year, 3 of the top 35 in this draft, and then you have an opportunity to have, 3 again in top 30, top 40 picks. That gives you a real opportunity, I think, maybe to turn things around if you are the Cleveland Browns. All right, when we come back, we're going to hear a little bit from Kenny Pickett's OTA press conference yesterday. I haven't gotten to hear it, so we're going to react to some of that as well, break that down, talk about what I've seen from Kenny Pickett, the quarterback. It is also Mailbag Thursday, so send us your questions to @Browns_Daily. Gerard and I, hour number 2. If you get a lot of questions in here, we'll get you a big old mailbag on this Thursday, so it certainly is going to be a lot of fun. Appreciate you guys joining us as always. It's Cleveland Browns Daily. It's presented by Ballybet, an official sports betting partner of your Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns and Ohio's 529 plan have partnered to present one lucky Browns fan a $5,000 college savings award. You'll also receive 4 tickets to a VIP experience at Browns training camp. Visit collegeadvantage.com/Browns to enter for your chance to win today. Today is the final day to enter, so you get an opportunity to get $5,000 plus 4 tickets to a VIP experience at Browns training camp. $5,000 college savings award. That is huge. All you have to do is go to collegeadvantage.com/Browns to enter. Today is the last day, so be sure to go and do that. From the podium now, presented by Vivid Seats. Purchase your official fan experience package today for the ultimate game day. From Wednesday's availability, here are highlights from quarterback Kenny Pickett's OTA press conference.
Have you ever
You're done.
been involved in a quarterback competition quite like this, where there's so many guys involved at this stage of the offseason?
Yeah, I think you just keep every competition the same. Like, you're really just trying to improve daily, learning a new system, playing with new teammates. It's just a daily process of trying to improve, and, all that stuff will just work itself out.
Philly's scheme is obviously kind of unique in the way that they obviously use Jalen with the run game, the QB run game and whatnot. But are there any similarities to what you've done maybe in Pittsburgh or back in college to what you're doing now here?
Yeah, I think there's more similarities to Philly's system than people may realize, just because we're a little bit more under center than the gun. Philly was more in the gun, but a lot of the concepts are the same and the teaching is the same. Just learning the new terminology has really been the big thing for me.
Kenny, I know you told us about Jerry, working with him in the offseason and training together. It looked like today he's catching everything out there. Just what's it been like to reconnect with him here, and what's that early connection like?
Yeah, he's a really easy guy to throw to. I think it's a good play whenever you're throwing the ball to number 3. So, we should keep doing a lot more of that. But no, Jerry's an awesome guy. He works really hard. His communication with the quarterbacks is awesome. Just, if he sees something or if I see something, the ability just to have that open dialogue and kind of being on the same page has been great these first 2 days. I think it's shown.
And how intense is the competition? How do you feel like it's?
I think it's, the outside world makes it up a lot bigger than it is. When you're day to day and you're in meetings with these guys, you're out of practice, we spend so much time together. Of course, we're all competing. But you become friends with everybody. We're helping each other. There's an open dialogue in the quarterback room to, help each other grow. So I think it's a great media headline, but when you get in the building in a quarterback room, and at least all the ones that I've been in, you really become friends with these guys, and we're just pushing each other.
What are you learning from Joe? I mean, he's been around, obviously, for 17 seasons. So what kinds of takeaways are you getting from Joe Flacco out here?
I think it's more, film room in between reps, talking about what he saw or what I saw. He's just it's like, he's not a coach. I don't want anyone to say that, but it's like having another coach when a guy that's played that much football. You could bounce ideas off of, ask him what he saw, how he would read certain things earlier in his career. There's just so many things, small things that you can learn. Just having that normal, open dialogue that we have in the quarterback room.
Kenny, obviously the Browns wanted you because they traded for you, but then since then, Kevin and AB, everybody's been really complimentary of you. Think you have a lot of untapped potential. So how does that make you feel heading into this competition, and just the fact that they think your best days are still yet to come?
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. That's why I'm just taking a day at a time and working really hard. I just want to be as prepared as I can be when the opportunity comes, and every chance I get out here, to put on good tape, play well, and then we'll see where the chips fall.
What do you learn, this time of year when you're going through the OTAs, the contact's limited, right? The defense is showing, but they're not being ultra aggressive. So what do you learn during this portion of the off-season program?
Those team periods are pretty aggressive. I think we were getting after it pretty good. But I think right now it's just learning a new system. You need live reps. At the end of the day, playing a quarterback position, you need live reps to feel comfortable in the system. I think the coaches are doing a great job of getting everybody those opportunities. And being as prepared as you can be, almost treating every practice like a game day script. You go home, you study it, you're prepared. You come in, you go out here and you work at it, and then you watch the tape. So I think that's kind of the process that I'm taking.
How about the 2 rookie QBs? Are the 2 rookie QBs really kind of picking your guys' brains and trying to learn from you? And if so, is it almost helping you learn, too, to have to be able to share with them?
Yeah, that's kind of the open dialogue thing that I was talking about earlier with Joe and all the quarterbacks. Just being in the film room, being able to talk through things. Same with Shadur and Dylan on the side. If they ever have a question to ask me and talk through it, it helps me just as much as it helps them. So, it's a great working environment, in that quarterback room.
Have you felt the Shadur sort of aura? He's all over, social media. There's a a huge fan base for him. He's a celebrity. I mean, have you sort of felt that, and if so, what impact does that have on any of this?
I don't think much player-wise. Shedur's an awesome guy, man. He's funny to be around. He's a great time every day in the quarterback room. We have a lot of laughs together, so it's been a lot of fun having him in the building.
Okay, with Joe, you mentioned he's like kind of like a coach out there.
Not a coach.
Not a coach.
Not a coach.
Right. But he's been vocal in the past about it's not my job to be a mentor to
No.
younger quarterbacks.
Nope.
But it happens naturally, and sometimes he feels like, he gets, we play gotcha with him on that. What do you make of that whole? Why is it such a big deal for a veteran quarterback to see themselves as a mentor, or whatever that is?
Yeah, I don't really know how to answer that question. Like I said, it's open dialogue in the quarterback room where he's not a coach, but you have so much respect for his time in the NFL where you're asking questions. He'll ask you questions of what I saw when he was in there. It goes both ways, vice versa. So, not a coach. Not a coach, but he's an awesome guy to have in the room to really talk through this system that he's been in before, especially, and systems like it. So it's been good.
And when you look back at those first couple of years in Pittsburgh, what are the things that stand out? You say, okay, this is what I need to do better, and there's so much more room for me to grow. Yeah, I think continuing to work in the pocket's been, really good for me. Having a chance in Philly to do it, and now working with the coaches here, continuing to get better there. Felt like late in games, I found ways to win games, which was always good to see. But continue just to grow as a quarterback in the system. You have to be in a system for a couple of years to really grow. I'm hoping I can have that here, where you just build a foundation with something and grow with it. So I'm just taking it a day at a time.
Deontay Johnson, what do you think he can bring to the table here, and what kind of camaraderie or chemistry do you two guys have?
Yeah, being able to play with Tay for a couple of years in Pittsburgh, now we're teammates again. I think that's awesome. His route running ability, his ability to separate, I think drop his weight in and out of routes. It's special. So I'm excited to get back out there with him.
Kenny, when you think about Geno Smith and some of the other guys, who have kind of resurrected their careers, not at their original place when they came in, in the draft as a first-round pick or whatever. Like, do you feel different? Like, is it freeing at all that maybe the expectations shift when you come into Pittsburgh as a big draft investment versus now that might be off your shoulders?
I feel like I'm pretty hard on myself to be as best as I can be. So I try to always not worry about the outside opinion and just hold myself to a really high standard of how I want to play quarterback and how I want to play football. So I don't think my mindset will change. Just excited to have this opportunity. Really grateful to be here. And it's been a lot of fun so far.
That is Browns quarterback Kenny Pickett talking yesterday at the podium about the OTAs, what it is like. Gerard, I love that they kept going out of his way to make sure. No. I'm not saying that Joe Flacco is a coach. He's a veteran. He understands the game like a coach. He is not a coach because he's here to compete as well. And I thought that was good recognition by Kenny Pickett. It's also it's a funny kind of a line because the reality is when you are a veteran and you are a quote-unquote mentor in the National Football League, you are mentoring the person that is supposed to take your livelihood from you or your job. Maybe not your full livelihood. Maybe you get to be the backup. But that's got to be a very strange thing. You obviously observed some of the highest functioning organizations when the Patriots were rolling and you were there. How does a team, how does an organization, how do players balance competition but also mentorship and looking at it from an organizational perspective kind of holistically?
Great question, Nathan. And what I've found is that this time of the year, leading, I would say, up until the first or second preseason game, how training camp is orchestrated, you're in open competition. Yep. You really haven't got that team bonding. You got it, but you don't. In that, you're trying to take a job. You're trying to keep a job. And you never lose that dynamic because you have to go out there and obviously perform. But it is definitely more of the mentality of, I'm going to go out there and seize the day, and my role has not been established, so I don't need to be, again, put in a space to where if I'm to say the backup quarterback, then my role is to support the quarterback and always do that. But there's just a different mentality that goes along with it. And Joe did a really nice job of defining that yesterday in that I'm here to compete. I'm here to win a job. Yes, if guys ask me questions, I'll feel free to volunteer it. I'm not holding back information because I have upper hand in knowledge and experience. So you always want to create that type of dynamic. But when it's time to go out there and perform, you perform. You put it on the line. You should always do that. But there's just this weird dichotomy that I'm trying to describe in which you are going after. You are getting after. You are always trying to beat someone. You're never quitting. In practice, you're always competing. But there's still a different mentality when it's established, okay, he's the quarterback. How do I support him? I'm the backup corner. I'm nickel or dime. I'm still trying to get on the football field.
Of course.
But the mentality is, okay, if this is my role when I'm on practice squad, I'm going to give you guys a look like you've never got before. And you still keep that type of mentality. It's just that things have changed, and it's not so much so of, okay, roles have been established. That doesn't mean you don't try to break through those barriers. You keep doing that. That never stops.
For sure, and I think that is very well said, Gerard, obviously, about what it is. And, yeah, Joe Flacco wants to be the starter. Joe Flacco is not concerned about the future. He's concerned about the present, and he wants to be he wants to be the starter for this football team. And that's what he is going to do, everything in his power to be able to do just that. And that's why this is going to be a pretty fun competition. And we said it really is a 4-person competition here for the Cleveland Browns at the quarterback position. Kenny Pickett, to me, sounds like a very smart quarterback. He's very confident. I've got a chance to sit with him, and I love that about him. You need to be confident if you want to succeed, certainly in the National Football League, and I would say especially in the AFC North. And he knows what it takes to be in the AFC North.
Right.
Does that matter, the fact that he played with the Steelers before? Does that help him at all?
Yeah, tremendously. One, there's familiarity when you go into these stadiums. It's not a surprise to you. You're not in shock and awe. You're not overwhelmed. You know what comes in the third and fourth quarter around there, Renegade, so that's not going to throw you off. And you know what it's like to be in a hostile environment playing against the Ravens and the Bengals because you've been in the division. So you know what AFC football, North football in particular, is all about. So that makes a world of difference. But, Nathan, I'm glad you picked up, and I know actions speak louder than words. But when you listen to Kenny, I hear a calm and I hear confidence, and I believe you need those type of things to be expressed when you are talking to the media and when you're presenting yourself to the public as a representative of the football team in the form of the quarterback.
Yeah, you have to. You have to. And that is, as you said earlier, it goes through so many different iterations, right, in terms of where that shows up. You mentioned in the huddle, calling the plays, how you're projecting everything. You kind of have to have that demeanor and that confidence to play this position. It's the hardest position in the league.
Yes, by far. And again, guys look to you for leadership. And we cannot say this enough because a lot of people get caught in this idea that, well, they're all professional athletes. They're still leaders and they're still followers in that dynamic and in that world. And obviously to get to the top, you have to be a phenomenal athlete, human being, and a bunch of other things because not just anyone makes it to the pros. We get that part of it. But there's still a situation because we can never forget this. Football is mock military. You still need leadership. You still need a captain. You still need a lieutenant and a sergeant and privates. You need all those dynamics. And the quarterback has to be the captain or even the general, if you will. And if you don't have that type of command about you to where guys don't follow your lead and they don't want to rally around you and you don't have that air about you, and that's something I think is organic. I don't think you could teach that, Nathan. Then if you don't have that going for you, and if it doesn't resonate with the team in the locker room, then it's not going to work. It's just not. That's why it's such a hard thing to find, that being your franchise quarterback.
No, and it's a quest that if you don't have one, you are on that quest until you do. And the Browns have been unfortunately on that quest for some time, and the quest continues. And the hope is that Kenny Pickett or Shedeur Sanders or Dylan Gabriel can be the guy to maybe put an end to that quest. That's what really you are. That's what you're hoping for.
Link.
Yeah, you're hoping for if you're the Cleveland Browns. I want to go back to something Bill Musgrave talked about since you have the defensive perspective on this. You know, I asked, why is it so much easier to generate those shot plays if you have the benefit of a good play action game and the real marriage of the run and the pass? How many beats does it take as a safety, looking at where you are either flat-footed or taking a step downhill if a team's really running it well versus, if they're just in the shotgun and you're not really worried about the run at all?
It makes a world of difference from a reading standpoint because, again, we're dealing with milliseconds in some instances. The difference between me getting on that break and breaking the play up, getting an interception, or being out of position, all that matters. And when you're in a situation where the running game is effective and now you not only do you have to worry about a fast guy on the outside threatening you with some type of a post or a dig or a corner route or a fade, and you have to be on that depending on what defense you're in. Now you're contending with, okay, this dude's getting in a third layer of phase of the defense. And that's where I really come in. And so now I have to concentrate on that because, and this to be honest with you, you don't want to be the guy on Sports Center getting ran over, or you don't want to be the guy getting juked in the open field. So you're going to pay attention to that. And on top of that, if you want to hurt a defense's feelings, pass it on. Yeah, you'll score points and you'll do all those things. But if you really want to hurt a defense, control a defense, and break the will of a defense, you run the football. And if you have hard-nosed running, and if you're just going after guys, gashing guys, that is physically exhausting. Tackling is no easy endeavor. And if you have hard guys to bring down and you keep on coming in waves, and then you throw some mix of pass in there, at some point, mental fatigue is going to set in. You're going to jump the gun. You're going to think it's a run because you've already been worn out. Then the next you know, the play action fake was done so well that you bite up and someone's behind you. It's really that simple. And the crazy part about it is, Nathan, it's been working for decades.
It has been. I mean, that's the stuff that Bill Musgrave was doing when he was a quarterback back 30 years ago with the 49ers. So, yeah, and he says Shanahan, Kubiak, a lot of those things still work today. Guess what? Who's considered one of the great offensive minds in the league? Shanahan. But it's Kyle, right, not Mike.
Right.
Who's the offensive coordinator, was down in New Orleans, now the offensive coordinator in Seattle. A Kubiak. Clint. So these core principles, McVay was schooled in this stuff. LaFleur's were schooled in this stuff. All of those core principles that worked then still work now. The game obviously has evolved, certainly in other directions as well. All right, coming up in our second hour, we're going to go around the sports world. We also are going to hear from Joe Flacco's OTA session, his press session, and then we've got the mailbag. So get your questions in to Browns_Daily. Nathan Zagura, Gerard Cherry, Cleveland Browns Daily, brought to you by Ballybet, official sports betting partner of your Cleveland Browns. Know a young Browns fan in the making? Join Junior Browns Backers, presented by University Hospitals Rainbow Babies and Children's and in association with Cardinal Credit Union, the official kids club for kids age 4 to 12. Join by June 8th to score an invite to the first event of the season, Field Day. Visit juniorbrownsbackers.com to join now. That's jrbrownsbackers.com to join now. Hour number 2 here of this Thursday edition of Cleveland Browns Daily, presented by Bally Bet, an official sports betting partner of your Cleveland Browns. Nathan Segura and the three-time Super Bowl champ Gerard Cherry with you here for this second hour, and we're going to go around the sports world. Before we do that, though, Gerard, yesterday I got an opportunity to go down to Columbus, play a little golf, but at the end of that, I got an opportunity to interview through our great partners, Huntington Bank, which is obviously the name, Huntington Bank Field, where the Cleveland Browns play, and interview a couple of PGA Tour pros, which for me was very cool. One of them, Jacob Bridgman, a young player who played at Clemson, who just got on tour a couple of years ago looking for his first tour win, was very productive ACC Player of the Year in college. And then the other was Matt Kuchar. And Matt Kuchar obviously has been around for a long, long time. He's our age, 9-time winner on tour, won the Memorial in 2013, was the College Player of the Year, was the PGA Tour Player of the Year back in 2010, and obviously he is still getting after it in his mid-40s. And he was just – it was really, really a cool thing to get to talk to these guys and, you know, learn from them, hear from them, break down the game of golf, which is a game that obviously I'm very passionate about, as they get ready to embark here on the Memorial. And, you know, that's something that when I'm watching now, I'm going to be really looking at that leaderboard and hoping, you know, that one of those guys, and they just teed off. Kuchar has played one hole. He is even through one. And then Bridgman is teeing off at 2 o'clock. He's actually in the final group to tee off today. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch. Right now, the leader is 7 under. Wow. Ben Griffin is 7 under par. Eagle number 7. That's an incredible eagle. That's a heck of a round of golf. That is a tough golf course. Colin Morikawa, 4 under. Shane Lowry is 3 under. Victor Hovland, 2 under. Max Homa is 2 under as well. Some other notables, Xander Schauffele's 1 under. Ricky Fowler is even. He's done for the day. Tony Finau even as well. Jordan Spieth even through 16. But fun tournament, beautiful golf course. Scotty Scheffler, if you're wondering, is just teed off. He's through 2 holes. He is even. And that's where things stand right now amongst some of the notables. But very cool event last night that I got to be a part of. It's such a beautiful venue. It is definitely a major championship type of a feel. I mean, to see somebody 7 under is wild. 7 under's won this tournament. So that is an incredible first round there. But I mentioned Max Homa. He has partnered with Chipotle to release a foil-wrapped burrito head cover and shag bag. The head cover is actually pretty funny. A Chipotle burrito head cover, that's okay. I got a new head cover for my driver the other day, Gerard. As soon as I saw it come out, I had to get it.
What was it?
It is from Swag Golf. It is a Razor Ramon head cover, and it is unbelievable. It is perfect. It is oozing machismo, for those of you who know. Yeah, so I was very excited about that. All right, let's talk a little bit about notable players holding out of OTAs due to contract negotiations. Falcons quarterback Kirk Cousins. Not really. I don't know if it's negotiations.
It's a negotiation. It's a protest.
It's a protest. He doesn't know really what his future holds. He wants out of there. They're not making it easy, and I don't see why they would give him away. They've got $40 million to keep him there as an insurance policy behind a guy who, and Michael Penix, has been pretty oft injured throughout his football career, whether it was in college or certainly, you know, in the NFL getting started here. Bills running back James Cook, he wants to get paid, Gerard. I don't blame him. I also understand the Bills' position on this. This is a tough one because Cook had a phenomenal year last year. He is entering the last year of his rookie deal. He's entering his 4th season. He's been a Pro Bowler each of the last 2 years. He's rushed for over 1,000 yards each of the last 2 years. He averages 5 yards a carry for his career. Last year led the NFL with 16 rushing touchdowns. He is a darn good player. There's no doubt about it, but he's a running back going into his 4th season. Do they want to pay him at that point before they have to? Yeah, it could save them some money, but it sounds like the money he wants, it wouldn't save them for getting it done earlier. and you risk obviously the injury risk, and that's why he wants to get it done. I don't blame the player. That's a tough one. Running back is a position, and you saw it in this year's draft, and you saw it in this year's free agent market. When it's a loaded running back draft, there's not a lot of money for these free agents.
Right. And the good thing he has going for him is that he certainly plays a part because, again, you got to give the quarterback Josh Allen some help. You just can't put it all on him with the running and the passing. And that was typically the case prior to Cook's arrival and ability to go out there and play at a high level. So he will get something. It's probably not what he's asking for right now, but to his credit, running back position seems to be in vogue, but you're absolutely right as well that so many guys were drafted this year that it does temper the market down because it becomes a supply and demand issue, just basic economics. And right now there's a lot of supply on the market, so that brings down the demand. So what he's going to have to do pretty much is, again, have another, and this is the sad part, 3 years in a row of having an all-pro season, you're going to get significantly paid. It won't be Myles Garrett and Saquon Barkley type money or anything like that, but it'll certainly be something better than what you're currently getting. But I get the impatience with it because when you see guys making more than you who are not contributing as much as you do, and this is where you get back to the business side of things where you're not in team mode, and this is what the offseason represents because you don't talk about a guy's money during the course of the season. That's just like unheard of in the locker room, right? So this time of year is where you have those considerations. You have those laments, and you complain, and you let it be known what you're looking for. But I just don't know if the Bills are going to be able to pull that caper off because, they just gave Josh Allen a ton of money.
Of course they did because he's the franchise. He's the quarterback.
Right.
That's the franchise. That's how the NFL works. Going back, the Bills are not afraid to draft running backs, and I don't think they're necessarily afraid to let a running back go and try to redraft another one. They drafted Devin Singletary in the 3rd round in 2019. He's got over 4,000 career yards. They drafted Zach Moss in the 3rd round in 2020. In 2021, they did not take a running back. 2022, they drafted James Cook in the 2nd round. 2023, they did not take a running back. And then last year, they did draft Ray Davis in the 4th round. And Ray Davis had 442 yards rushing, 3 touchdowns, and had a solid rookie campaign for them. So they're a team that it feels like, I don't think he's going to hold out. I think he's going to play. I think he just kind of has to. But they're a team that's not, they've shown, since 2019, they've drafted 4 running backs relatively early. So they're not afraid, I think, to just reload at that position. But if they can work it out with James Cook, I certainly think they would want to.
Right. And what James needs to do is just get more intricately involved in the passing game. Then what's your excuse? Yep. At that point, okay, I'm doing dual duty. So that's what helps the cause there. Get involved in the passing game and be a stellar runner and pull off some type of situation that you have in Frisco with McCaffrey. If you can get to that type of level of production, they're going to pay you.
Oh, yeah, anybody gets to that level, yeah, they will absolutely pay you. It's just for Cook, you mentioned the pass game, and it's interesting because they brought in a pass-catching back last year who had been with the Jets before that, I want to say, Ty Johnson, and he kind of cut into some of those numbers. Last year, James Cook, 32 catches, 258 yards. Davis had 17 catches for 189 yards. Ty Johnson had 18 for 284, was actually the leading rush receiver at the running back position for the Bills a year ago. And you look back to 2023, Cook was more involved as a receiver that season. He had 44 for 445. So he needs to get back to that kind of a level to be that dual threat that you're referencing there. But good, very good player, dynamic runner, almost 5 yards carry for his career. Certainly want to see him get paid. Here's a name that's on the list that's interesting to me is Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts, 600 yards last year, 667 the year before, 357 the year before in his rookie year. Obviously, he had that great season where it looked like he was going to be an all-world type guy, Pro Bowler, 1,026 yards, 15 yards a catch. He's looking, my guess is he's looking for a deal. They picked up his 5th-year option at $11 million, and he's looking for a contract. To me, that's a guy he's got to earn it. I like Kyle Pitts a lot, but it just hasn't happened. And you hear the way the coaches talk about him, it almost sounds like he still doesn't quite have the playbook mastered, and there's still a lot of stuff he needs to work on.
Yeah, well, I got a chance to hang out with a lot of Atlanta Falcons fans this past week, and there's so much hope and promise for him, but we see it as well from our vantage point here up north in Ohio, in that dude, what have you done lately? What are you doing? Because I'm on the same opinion I think you are, Nathan, that you should be dominating. Coming out of college from Florida, I thought he was going to be the next premier tight end, that all we talk about would be Kyle Pitts, because I'm saying it's a mismatch waiting to happen. But those numbers that you just put out there, those aren't impressive. That's like, okay, you're doing your job, but you should be dominating. So for a guy who's not dominating to be saying I'm going to hold out and not participate, someone's giving you some poor advice.
Agreed. Now, I read a little another blurb here as I was diving into it that Pitts is actually, he is at OTAs.
Okay, so I take it back then.
He is not participating due to a foot injury, but that could also be a foot injury that is part of a negotiation, as we know how those things can go from time to time. Down in Cincinnati, though, Trey Hendrickson, we know that is a legitimate holdout. And their first-round pick, Shamar Stewart, who's also an edge rusher, he is refusing to practice until he signs his contract. Now, I don't know why his contract isn't signed with these slotted contracts.
Right.
It obviously has to do with bonus money and when the bonus is going to be paid, and he doesn't like whatever or his agent doesn't like whatever the Bengals are saying on that front. But, dude, it's hard enough making the transition, and now you're costing yourself a lot of time and a lot of reps, and that's a hard thing to overcome.
It is, but when you're a first-round draft pick, they'll give you time to overcome it. It's just going to have more implications for your Rookie of the Year award winner or making it to the Pro Bowl and things of that nature because you're starting off later than usual. But back to Hendrickson, man, I saw the craziest thing the other day where he was walking to practice because they have to walk because they don't have a practice facility on the grounds where it's stadium, so they have to walk across the street.
Off a street, yep.
And I'm like, this dude has on a golf hat, a golf shirt, and khakis, and he's observing his teammates practice. And I thought it was the funniest thing because I was saying to myself, why even bother going to practice?
I don't know that
Just go home.
Did he stay for practice?
Yeah.
Oh, because I know he went down there just so he could speak to the media. He went down there, spoke to the media for one day, and then I think he was out of there.
Oh, so maybe he left after that because I thought it was just the most bizarre thing. Like, why are you walking with your teammates to practice but not going to practice?
Because he won't. He's done. He's done with them. He went there just to be able to talk to the media because he knew all the media were there, and he went there to talk about it. Literally, that's the only reason that he went. And he is saying he is dug in. He will not play this season, and that would be a big blow for them. According to ESPN's Ben Baby, Hendrickson is, quote, extremely dug in on potentially missing games or perhaps the entire season if they don't come to an agreement.
Yeah, and I don't look for them to come to an agreement, to be honest with you, because, again, this is not how the Bengals operate. And when you really dig deeper into the numbers of what they did do this all season, like, for example, T. Higgins, that's really a glorified one-year deal, in my opinion.
Yep.
And granted, the Browns are not known for, like I said, emptying out the cash register. I mean, they did it for Joe Burrow, and you had to. That's a once-in-a-lifetime talent. I get it. But, and Chase as well. At the same time, though, you're going to see it this year. The defense is going to be littered with undrafted guys and guys who are trying to make a name for themselves, and nothing wrong with that, and you appreciate the opportunity. But ultimately, salary cap's a salary cap for a reason. You can only allocate so many dollars to a certain side of the football field, and it is clearly present that they did more on the offensive side, and they'll hopefully things will stay together and hold together on the defensive side. And he does deserve to be paid because look at his production, Nathan. There's no denying it. He's been one of the top pass rushers in the league for a few years now.
Absolutely. Well, had more sacks than anybody last season. And then there's the Bucs linebacker, Hassan Reddick. I don't think it's a contract dispute. He signed a one-year, $14 million deal. I just think maybe he's just not that interested. He was very odd with the Jets when the Jets traded for him, and he really didn't want to do it. It's a very strange situation, but I'm sure you'll see him, and he's a veteran, but coming off of a very down year with the Jets because he didn't really play. Prior to that, though, he had been a very, very productive pass rusher, 12.5 sacks with Arizona in 20. He had 11 sacks with Carolina in 21, 16 with Philly in 22, and 11 with Philly in 23, was a Pro Bowler in both of those seasons, and then last year was with the Jets, 1 sack in 10 games, but signed a big deal with Tampa Bay, and they'll see if they can get him going. Speaking of Tampa Bay, former Bucs wide receiver Keyshawn Johnson is suing agent Chris Ellison for unpaid finder's fees. Johnson's civil complaint seeks close to $1 million in unpaid commissions for delivering clients to Ellison. Huh.
Man, put a name in for me, huh?
Apparently, but you would say, obviously, does he have a contract that states it? And he must think so if he's able to do so.
And that stuff matters. It really does, because a lot of times when you're in a position, especially as a rookie, and you don't have any insight other than you'll lean to maybe your coach on the collegiate ranks or a former teammate who's in the league and say, hey, what do you think? What do you know? And who you trust. And generally that's how it works. It's just by word of mouth. So many guys get the business because of recommendations, not simply because I mean, what do you really know? All you know is, okay, I see this guy on TV, like a Drew Rosenhaus, for example. So you assume that, hey, he's on TV. He represents these guys. Yep. He must be a good agent.
Yep. Yeah, that's part of that business, is certainly getting the publicity and keeping yourself exactly and everywhere that you need to be in that public eye to make that stuff happen. So that's an interesting one. And then finally, the OKC Thunder. They have punched their ticket to the NBA Finals for the first time since 2012. They're the second youngest team to make the finals in the past 70 years. Pacers looking to close out the Knicks at MSG tonight. That should be a crazy environment, and obviously it's an environment where the Knicks are hoping that home court can help them get to Game 6 and try to switch the pressure in this one back onto the Pacers.
Yeah. They did again. Pacers played a phenomenal pace. So apropos the name, the Pacers. And at some point, if you're only going with 6 or 7 dudes, you're going to wear down. And Pacers bring in a litany of guys. So it makes sense to me what's going on. And to the credit of the Pacers, Nathan, they're better than what I gave them credit for. Because I was like, okay, ain't no way us being the Cavaliers are going to lose to this team. But now I'm seeing why it's happening. I'm respecting it.
They're good. It's just like, I was talking with somebody the other day, and I'm like, maybe they're just a good basketball team. Maybe they're just a good basketball team. Halliburton is very good, the great Holly. Siakam is good. Turner's good. Nesmith is good.
Yeah, he's developing. That's the one that gets you, though, because that's the one you're like, okay, where did he come from? Obviously, he's been in the NBA for a minute, but he's playing at a high clip because whenever you need a clutch shot, it's not necessarily Halliburton. It could be Naismith.
Yeah, and Halliburton has been incredibly clutch when he does take that shot. The other, it's just, I feel like they're a team. They know their roles. Everybody knows what they're supposed to do on the court. They're physical. They can be big.
They don't make mistakes.
They've been very, very good, very good, and they have a chance now to go in 5. I mean, if you go back to back, beat the Cavs and the Knicks when you're the road team in 5 games. That's a good team. Like, that's a team that should be taken, I think, probably more seriously than they are at this moment. All right, when we come back, we're going to hear from Joe Flacco, including a great answer to the question about whether or not, I'm sure this is in there, whether or not he's a mentor. And he's like, don't even ask. This is a question that bad question, basically, but tells you why, and it's actually great. It is a fantastic listen. We're going to take a listen to that when we come back, and then we've got the mailbag. So get your questions in at Browns_Daily. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily, presented by Ballybet on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Elk and Elk, serious lawyers for serious injuries. Call 1-800-ELK-OHIO for your free case review. Elk and Elk is a proud partner of the Cleveland Browns. We head back to the podium now, presented by Vivid Seats. Purchase your official fan experience package today for the ultimate game day. Let's hear from the veteran now, Joe Flacco.
Joe, I know you probably
You're down 7.5.
a lot over the past couple of years, but like when you come into these quarterback rooms, especially one like this, where you've got guys who were like in grade school when you made your NFL debut, what's the dynamic like, especially for you, interacting with all these young quarterbacks?
I think it's a lot of fun. I mean, I actually, like, just from experience, I think they tend to get a little bit of a kick out of me just because I am 40 years old now and could be their fathers probably. And it's fun for me, too, in the same kind of way. I mean, they're young and they have a lot of life and a lot of energy and a lot of, new things that kind of can keep me in the loop with my kids and all those things. It's fun. I mean, everybody in that locker room, it's like we're all 25-year-olds just having the time of our lives. And look, we get to come out here and do this for a living, so why wouldn't we feel that way?
Joe, when is the last time you were in a real quarterback competition like this one seems to be?
I don't know. High school. Probably my sophomore year of high school. I could be wrong, though. I don't know.
So what's that like, though? I mean, for you to be...
Listen, I'm not really thinking about it that much, honestly. I'm just kind of going out there and doing what I do, and, everything else is, kind of out of my control. So all I can do is go out there and play football, and that's what I'm doing.
How about Kenny Pickett? What are you seeing in Kenny and you guys? I see you guys out there, kind of talking a lot, and it looks like even just in photos that we've seen, you guys have really developed a nice rapport.
Listen, we spend a lot of time together. All the quarterbacks do. I think that's the nature of the beast when you're in this business and you're in a room together a lot. You better find ways to get along and find common ground with people, and that's what we're doing in there. We're having a blast and having a lot of fun talking football and then just laughing at things that come up, on a daily basis.
You have been around. You've seen so much, almost everything. Even with Lamar coming into Baltimore. How have you, sensed the whole Shador sort of celebrity and aura that kind of follows him around, and what impact does that have on anything?
I don't know if it has an impact on much, but Shador's been great. I mean, he's a lot of fun to be around in those meeting rooms, and I think so far there's been, at least once in the meeting room that he's made me crack a smile, and that's what it's all about. He's a young guy trying to learn some football and come out here and practice well and do those things. And like I said, he's been a lot of fun. I mean, he's come up to me and, listen, I probably wasn't too far away from playing against his dad, and now I'm playing with him. So,
Joe, you've been vocal in recent years about the topic of like veteran quarterbacks having a duty as a mentor. Why do you think us outside world makes such a big deal of that?
It's a talking point. You can kind of like use it because it's a good question to bait somebody into answering, and no matter how they answer it, it kind of makes the guy that's answering it look bad. If I say I don't want to be a mentor, I look bad. If I say I do want to be a mentor, then I look like an idiot that doesn't care about being good and playing football. So it's one of those questions that no matter what I say, you guys can write what you want to write about it. And there's a lot of questions like that. That's why you end up having to try to avoid them. I tend to try to be honest, and I've said I'm not a mentor. I play football. And in a quarterback room, there's a lot of times there's been a ton of times where there's learning experiences, and I have a lot of experience, and I can talk on things, and hopefully they listen. But it's not necessarily like my job to like make sure they listen to me. And hey, like hopefully you have a really good relationship with the guys that are in the room, and you naturally want to do that, But that was a long-winded answer, but that's ultimately why I think you guys ask it,
Joe, you said you don't watch the draft. So when you found out that the Browns drafted 2 quarterbacks, did you have any kind of reaction to that?
I think you always have a little bit of reaction, going back to being honest. Yeah, I mean, my wife was like, oh, they just drafted another guy. My wife is on top of it, So there you go.
Do you think that your view, what you just said, is more of a predominant view, and then other quarterbacks are maybe less willing to be direct about it?
Listen, here's the thing: is like because of what I just said, like you're acting like I wouldn't want to be a mentor. It's like once again, it's not really about that. It's just not the main focus. I see myself as a guy that can play in this league. So if your main focus was just like, hey, bud, I'm going to get you ready, you're just not taking care of business. The best way to be a mentor, honestly, is like show people how you go to work, and and like I said, hope that they pick up on that stuff, but not necessarily force them to pick up on the things that you do.
Joe, if the fans were determining who's going to be the starter on opening day, you would win that one, hands down, because every single place that I go,
Right.
everyone tells me that they want you to start. So my question to you is just how cool is it for you to land back here where you just have the absolute love of all these Cleveland Browns fans, and are you feeling it again?
Yeah, it's a cool place. I mean, I the last time I was here, you picked up on it. I mean, it's a city that loves football and is hungry for some winning, and I think that's what resonated is we won games. And listen, it feels good, but listen, you got to go out there and you got to perform and you got to play well and you got to win football games. That's what it's all about, and that's what I'm trying to do. I'm working hard to put us in the best position, put myself in the best position to be out there winning football games. So
just a couple more percentage, maybe, because obviously like the offense was kind of revamped last year when you were gone. But if you had to put a percentage on how similar it is to when you were here in 2023, what would you say? How would you say?
that's like asking, like, oh, if I'm injured, I'm like 80%. I never really understood that. I don't know how to come up with a percentage. It's either like 100 or 0. There's familiar. There's a lot of the same. It's a lot of similar concepts and things like that. There may be some new names and new ways we're kind of teaching things, but ultimately a lot of the core stuff is pretty similar. So good amount, yeah.
Joe, Jerry was just talking. He says he's locker mates with you, and that you guys have a lot of conversations over the course of. What are those like, and how important is that, especially with a guy like Jerry, to kind of develop that, that bond beyond just on the,
Yeah, well, if you're assuming we're in there talking about football, we're not usually.
No, but
I can't tell you what we were just talking about in there. But it's fun. Yeah, like I love that. I love I was walking back to my locker and 3 guys were sitting right there, and I'm like, all right, what's the topic? What are we talking about? And they usually tend to shut up and listen because they think I have some kind of wisdom because I'm old. I don't necessarily, at least on some of the things they're talking about. I'm not sure I do have the right kind of knowledge about that, but it's a lot of fun.
Joe, along the lines of understanding your point on mentorship, but you talk about like learning from the experiences that you have. How much are those 2 rookie quarterbacks? How often are those conversations happening? I guess like whether it's in the quarterback room.
Yeah, a good amount. Like I mean, look, like. There's been, like, the first day we were out here throwing routes, like, Shador was asking me about steps and things like that. I mean, Dylan was, calling me up, trying to mimic my cadence and to see if that, like, for whatever reason, he wants to get it similar. So, he's even down to the cadence. I mean, there's questions and things and conversations that are happening, and they're fun,
That is Joe Flacco there, and I love that. I loved his answer about being a mentor. I thought it was great. He is such a breath of fresh air with his ability because he's done it. He's a Super Bowl champion. He's, nearing, not at the end of his career, certainly can still play. He slings it, throws a beautiful ball. Couldn't be a bigger Joe Flacco fan, but, he's played more years than he's got ahead of him, is very safe to say. And I think it gives him a freedom to speak freely. I thought that was great, and he's right. And it goes to the question I was asking you. Either he wants to start for this team. He does not want to be their mentor, but he's going to lead. And you heard Kenny Pickett say it earlier. He leads by example. And Bill Musgrave said it. He leads by example. He does and shows these guys, but it is not his job to make them listen to him. It's not his job to make them follow him. But he's going to give them a pretty darn good blueprint on how to be successful in this league.
Yeah. All you have to do is follow his leads. Observe what he's doing. And he has a tremendous advantage over everybody in that quarterback room because he's been there and done that 4 or 5 times more than anyone else in that room, including Kenny Pickett. And on top of that, he still has a strong arm, and he still understands the game, and he's still able to process things. So, Joe, being in the quarterback room, Nathan, it helps. Again, you're going through basically to purify something, you have to go through the fire. And when you have a guy like that in the room, if you can beat a Joe Flacco out and it's a true competition and you, honest to goodness, beat him out, you should be proud of that endeavor. You should say to yourself that that's a heck of an accomplishment and achievement because he's a for-real quarterback. But more importantly, what we're talking about right now in regards to what he had to say, what I love about it is that nothing in there is inflammatory. Nothing in there is disrespectful. It's just simply a guy telling it like it is and telling the truth of how he thinks and sees things. And he's saying it in a way that has so much decorum to it.
Yeah. And he's not saying anything bad. He just knows exactly what he is about, what he thinks about it, and he is going to go ahead and tell you exactly what he thinks that is. And I love it. I love Joe Flacco. I want Joe Flacco to be so successful. And, if that means that he's quarterbacking for us, I want him to light it up like he did all the 300-yard games, all that. He is a great guy. He was such a breath of fresh air when he came in here. He remains an elite human being and a great quarterback. And, he's a Super Bowl champion, period. The end. That's what he's done in his career. He has gotten to the top of the very mountain. So love that we have him here. I do think that by osmosis, he can be a good mentor without even intending to be, just by being Joe Flacco and doing the things and preparing the way that Joe Flacco has prepared throughout his career that have allowed him to be the successful NFL quarterback that he has been. So I love it. I think it's a great situation for the Browns. I think it's a great situation for these young players to have him in that room. And it's a great situation for Joe Flacco to get to compete when he's got this opportunity to be, he is the venerable veteran. He's got that advantage, and we'll see what he can do with that. All right, when we come back, we're going to get into the big old mailbag. So hopefully we got a lot of questions here. If you haven't, send them into @Browns_daily and get those questions in. We are going to give you our answers. Ask us whatever you want. It's a Mailbag Thursday here. OTAs wrapped up for the week. So we'll have that for you when we come back here on Cleveland Browns Daily, brought to you by Ballybet. Add more to your fandom with the Ballybet Sportsbook app. Download today and get $50 in bonus bets when you place your first wager of $10 or more. Ballybet, an official sports betting partner of the Cleveland Browns. Time now for the mailbag. All right, Brock, what do we got?
Hello, guys.
Hello, Brock.
We'll get it started with a fun one today. If you had to do a power hour for a food or drink, for example, eating a chicken nugget every minute for an hour, what do you think you would excel at?
I think 60 pot stickers would be too much, although I would like to give it a go. That would be the first thing that pops into my mind. Couldn't do 60 tacos either. That's way too much. Maybe I could do... like 60 pieces of sushi. I think I'd be pretty good at that. I think I could do that. A piece of sushi.
Yeah, I could easily do 60 pizza rolls. No problem.
Easily 60 pizza rolls.
Yeah. That's basically a box.
We need to see that on the... We might have to do that on the road this year.
I could easily do that.
60 pizza rolls. That's pretty strong. I like it.
From Professor Pepper. With Hicks being healthy, Devin Bush and Diabate back, and with the additions of Baker and Carson, I feel like we have a really solid linebacker room. Where would you rank our linebacker room out of the 32 NFL teams?
I can't say that I have a familiarity with every linebacker room in the league off the top of my head. I think if we had JOK in that room, we're probably a top quarter of the league linebacker room, which is the way that I would look at it. I think probably right now we're somewhere from 12 to 24, I would probably say, in the linebacker room. I think we're probably a very middle-of-the-pack linebacker room. It is not, you're not competing with the teams that have, at least not yet until we see Carson, but, the teams that have the Roquan Smiths and the Zach Bombs and the Fred Warners, all those, we're not on their levels. With JOK, he gives us that guy, and I think we would be in the top 10. But I think we're probably in the middle of the pack.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going. I was thinking to myself, okay, top linebacker cores in my mind would be Ravens bring that to the table. Then you got the 49ers and obviously the Eagles as well. And then, heck, you can even throw probably the Steelers in there, what they bring to the linebacker room. And I would say we're definitely not in the bottom third. I'd say a good split in the middle right now. But if you had JOK in there because of what he was on the verge of doing, that puts you in the top 10 for sure.
Yep.
From Preston, if you have to use one condiment or sauce for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Oh, that's an easy one.
Go ahead, Dread.
Oh, that's ketchup. You can't go wrong with that. That goes on everything. Now, barbecue's a close second, but ketchup, you can't go wrong.
So it's just a condiment
or sauce.
But I consider is a bolognese sauce. Are we talking with pasta sauces competing, or are we talking just kind of a basic sauce?
Up to your discretion.
I think we'll just go with a basic sauce. I would not be able to do without. I could get away with not having ketchup as long as I had some type of a hot sauce. I really do like truff. I like the black truff a great deal. That is a great sauce.
Highbrow stuff right there.
I like to put it on a lot. Now the white truff is that's the one that's crazy expensive. The black truff is very nice. They also have a green one now, which is a jalapeno truff that I enjoy a great deal. I love hot sauces. It's got to be, to me, it's got to be. I'd give up ketchup to be able to have a hot sauce for sure. I got to have a hot sauce. Habanero sauce, all of it.
Here's one for you, Z. From Zito, what's the craziest wrestling fact you know? For me, it was finding out the Genius and the Macho Man are biological brothers.
Yeah, Leapin' Lanny Poffo, the Genius, as well as Randy Macho Man and Randy Poffo. They are brothers. In fact, craziest wrestling fact. I mean, I think honestly, and I think it's still debatable, is, that Mr. Perfect wasn't necessarily perfect, although I'll argue all day until I'm blue in the face that he is, in fact, perfect.
Old school reference.
I've seen the videos. He can throw a 70-yard bomb to himself. He hits home runs. He saved Wade Boggs' life. So maybe he is perfect.
So when did Bobby Heenan stop being called the one genius, or is that name open to anyone?
Bobby Heenan was the Weasel.
Oh, he was the Weasel, not the genius? I thought he was a genius
the
as
Weasel.
well.
The Weasel. Maybe in his own mind he was the genius. The genius was actually a character, and he had like a scroll, and he wore like a graduation gown. You look up the genius. He's actually very funny, the genius.
Yeah. I have to get a Hot Rod T-shirt. I always wanted one when I was a kid and didn't have the means back then to do that. So that is something, as a matter of fact, I'm going to order it today. I've been meaning to order that T-shirt. I'm going to do it today.
There you go. Let's do it.
I could not stand Roddy Piper when I was a kid, but now, I don't know. I like the guy for some reason.
The Hot Rod. He's got that
I'll
great
go back
one
and
with
watch Piper's Pits from old school, and I don't know why I watch him, but I do.
Because just when they think they have the answers, he changes the questions.
Great stuff back then, man.
Oh, the best. Yes.
From Bobby Meckling.
Bobby.
What are 3 things you're grateful for?
Family, friends, health.
That's a great order, my man. What am I thankful for? Certainly family, certainly friends, certainly health, but I got to ask something to be different, I guess.
All right.
I'd say to do what we do, man.
Yeah,
we get
absolutely.
the opportunity to talk sports for a living, and traveling doing that is such a blessing to be able to do that, man. So I'd say doing what we do, the profession.
Yep. Yeah, that would have been the next one on mine. Is very I feel very fortunate for my professional career and the things that I get to do and the experiences I get to have.
Hey, Nate.
Yes.
So about a couple weeks ago, we had this big debate about wrestling, and I said that wrestling was in its heyday, that it was more popular in the 80s based upon numbers than it is now. Now, just weigh in on this because I know you're a wrestling aficionado.
It's not true because they've done such a good job in terms of, well, first of all, money's different and all of that, right now, but was it more a part of the cultural zeitgeist in the mid-'80s? I would say so. Than it is right now because of just the sheer bigness of Hulk Hogan. Right. It was on the cover of Sports Illustrated, all those things. So I think in a sense you could say Hulkamania singularly was bigger than anything that's going on in wrestling right now. But the real heyday of wrestling was the Attitude Era and the NWO. So when you had WWE Monday Night Raw and WCW Monday Nitro going head-to-head, you had the NWO with Hogan in WCW, and you had like Stone Cold, The Rock, DX, Undertaker, Mr. McMahon's character. They get Mike Tyson involved. WrestleMania 14, like that is that's the hottest period of wrestling ever. Was that period? And you had ECW going on. That's the heyday. Late 90s, absolute heyday of professional wrestling. All right.
There you have it.
There you have it indeed. Good question, though. Like the money, like the fact that they're selling out, where the Raiders play in Vegas back-to-back nights. Now they sell out back-to-back nights for every WrestleMania. The money, the tickets are so expensive, like the money they're making, all of that. The fact that they're, they basically they're in Peacock, but has their own portion of Peacock, their own network. Like it's pretty insane what they are doing now. Now, will it last, or will they price people out? That's going to be, I think that's one of the big questions.
There's ebbs and flows to this, right?
Hulk Hogan was like there just isn't one person. Like John Cena's heel turn was great. Roman Reigns is a great, great champion and a mega star in his own right. But like Hulk Hogan transcended everything.
Right. I mean, you had Cyndi Lauper getting involved in wrestling.
Yeah. Mr. T at the very first WrestleMania. But, and that's the thing, testament to Hogan, is Hogan had that in the mid-'80s. Hogan had the whole NWO, Monday Nitro, all that in the late 90s. And then in 2002 put on what is my favorite wrestling match of all time against The Rock at WrestleMania 18 and had that place going completely bonkers. Absolutely bananas. So, yeah, very, very, very cool. Very cool. The Hulkster had an incredible run. But I think to your point, your question was, like, it's just a bigger deal, socially, culturally then. But we have so many more options now, too, right? Think about all the things that are on TV, all the things that you can do. But, all right, we got to take a break because we got so much more to come. So we've got to get that. So we'll be back. So much more to come here at Cleveland Browns Daily, presented by Ballybet.
Minute 20. You're going up.
All right, the Browns OTAs are done for the week. They had a couple good days of practice out there throwing the ball around. Obviously, only one open to media. They'll be open again next Wednesday, open to the media as well. That's kind of the schedule for these OTAs. Gerard, pleasure being with you as always, brother.
1 minute.
What's that, Nate Dogg?
It's a pleasure being with you as always.
Yeah, appreciate it, my man, as always, and we'll be connecting, I'm pretty sure, soon.
Yes, indeed we will be. By the way, it's sunny out there, so go out and enjoy your Thursdays.
Wow.
There's finally some blue skies that I see, the sun shining down, so take advantage of that. Go out there, have some fun. Maybe sit on a patio, have yourself a margarita, as it were, on a nice Thursday. Get ready for June. Brock wants one. I would love one. That'd be fantastic. So we appreciate you joining us tomorrow. Me and the play-by-play voice of your Cleveland Browns, Andrew Siciliano. He will be checking in fresh off of his travels to Roland Garros. So we'll have a lot to talk about, as well as the Browns OTAs wrapping up and getting you ready for this weekend here. As always, Next Level's next. Thanks for listening to Cleveland Browns Daily, presented by Bally Bet, an official sports betting partner of your Cleveland Browns.